WCIA 3, your local news leader. This is Weathering the Storm on WCIA 3.
Hello and welcome to Weathering the Storm. I'm Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty, along with meteorologist Jack Griffin, Amelia Henderson, and Jacob Dickey.
Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about ways to keep you safe during the upcoming severe weather season.
We take a look at how to deal with flooded basements, as well as what you need if a tornado is headed to you.
We'll also take a look back at the historic Gibson City flooding, and we'll learn why you should never shelter under an overpass.
And we'll also bring you a recap of the past December tornado outbreak, plus we'll let you know why we go out in our storm tracker during bad weather.
But first, let's take a look back at the entire 2021 severe weather season.
In the WCIA3 viewing area last year, 68 tornado warnings were issued. This is actually the highest amount out of the last 10 years. When we combine both tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings, we had 243 total warnings, of which nearly 1 in 3 were tornado warnings for our area. This map shows all of the tornadoes reported in 2021. All of the tornadoes were either EF2 or below on the enhanced Fujita scale, which is the scale that measures tornado strength. One of the more memorable events occurred the night of December 10th.
All of this debris, a tornado debris signature now showing up north of Mattoon.
5 EF2 tornadoes occurred that night. One of those was on the ground for nearly 16 miles, with winds of 125 miles an hour, as it moved through the Windsor to Gaze and eventually the west side of Mattoon. Many structures were damaged, and we were live on the air providing coverage.
I think Gaze has taken a hit. Yeah. I think Gaze has taken a hit from a tornado here.
Tornadoes typically occur more during the months of April and May in our area, but obviously they can occur in any month and at any time, although the most common time is between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m.
Now, those December tornadoes brought destruction, but also interest in weather to someone that was very, very close. Jack brings us the story.
It's supposed to be like snow clouds and hail and mixes, but this one wasn't really like that because it was severe weather.
The December 10th storm system not only brought tornadoes, it was a record breaker with 71 confirmed tornadoes and 89 deaths for a December outbreak. 6 people died in the Edwardsville Amazon plant in Illinois, but Central Illinois had a December record with 6 tornadoes on the northern edge of this large outbreak.
And it was quite chaotic at that time and a little scary. And I remember they were just praying, like, let's just get through this.
And we survived.
We did. And we did not know the damage that had happened all around us.
Jill Horst, her son Jessen, and the rest of their family live on the edge of Mattoon, extremely close to the path of a damaging EF2 tornado. The Horsts had very little damage, thankfully, but they were without power for 25 hours.
And we lost power and internet, so we were really just going off the WCIA app after that. I remember seeing him on the app.
I'm looking here to the north and east towards Windsor.
He was driving on a road, and we're like, it's coming, it's coming.
The tornado came within half a mile of their house as they took shelter in the bathroom, but it was close enough that they could feel it. But this scary moment might be the beginning of a lifelong interest in weather for Jessen.
As soon as we heard the tornado shaking like the ground, then it was really scary though.
We may have a future meteorologist on our hands.
And then I started noticing he was asking our Alexa what the wind speeds were every single day. And so that kind of turned into, he really liked the weather, and he likes to go online and see what the weather patterns are, and it's been really fun.
In recess at school, usually I get on the weather app so I can go onto the radar to see what's gonna come.
Jessen was inspired to do our Kidcaster segment after something that initially was scary to him, and he was wonderful.
The current temperature's about the whole part of this, I don't know what it's called.
The viewing area.
Yeah, the viewing area. Temperatures around 53 and 52, and I don't really know what to say after that.
We talk a lot about tornadoes and what to do when you're at home, but what should you do when you're in a car driving? Jacob explains.
Do you know what to do when you are traveling and severe weather threatens? It's important to have a way to get weather alerts wherever you go. That's why you should download the WCIA 3 weather app. It will follow your location and provide weather alerts specifically where you are when you're traveling on roads like this. The great thing about this app is when you come across dark and scary clouds just like these here, you'll know whether the storms are severe or not. It's important to know also what to do when a tornado warning is issued and you are out driving in your car.
The National Weather Service in Lincoln has issued a tornado warning.
You'll want to find shelter as quickly as you can. However, using an overpass like this one here is not a great idea. That's because when the tornado winds come down, they will funnel and channel underneath the bridge, making them even more unpredictable. Even more, the debris flying through the air will come underneath that bridge, leaving you exposed to the elements. Instead, you should immediately head to find a place of sturdy shelter. That may include a nearby gas station, a restaurant, a convenience store, or other sturdy structure found along many of our roads. During severe weather, highway overpasses like this one are not the place to be. In the field, I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey.
When a tornado warning is issued, what should you grab on the way to your shelter? Amelia tells us 5 things you should take.
During severe weather season, your local meteorologist might issue a tornado warning. Now, what do you take with you when going to safety? Here are a few recommendations. A bottle of water to stay hydrated. Of course, you'll want a flashlight in case the power goes out. You'll want to take your cell phone for emergency contact. Shoes to keep your feet safe. And of course, a pillow and blanket, not only for safety, but for comfort during the tornado warning. Now, these are just a few essential items you'll want to take with you, but keep up to date with your local meteorologist until that tornado warning comes to an end.
All right, thanks a lot, Amelia. We've got much more of Weathering the Storm coming up after the break.
The Wright family has been furnishing homes.
Buddy, we are in the commercial break, but we are going to stand here and talk to you instead. So we keep you guys through here. Those of you that are watching here on our Facebook, Twitter, on the app, all of those locations there. We appreciate you watching our severe weather show, Weathering the Storm. We've got a few more segments for you, several more stories to tell you about coming up in the next segment as we kind of talk about some of that flooding, of course, that happened in Gibson City. Our next segment kind of goes into a lot of that. If you've had flooded basements before, issues with that, this is going to be a great little segment for you to watch as we kind of talk about some of the families that went through that in Gibson City. And just kind of what, kind of how they are doing nowadays, Still a lot of cleanup ongoing, and so we're going to have those stories coming up here as well. Again, thanks for everybody who is joining us here on the, whether you're watching on TV or maybe you got the app there as well. I also I'm going to tip you guys off to something, those of you that are on here. We're getting ready to partner up again with Midland Weather Radio, and we are going to be giving away some weather radios in a contest. Details of that still to be determined, but we just got word that that's going to be happening. So we'll be giving away some weather radios here soon. And then also, we are going to be selling those, obviously, as well. So some good stuff there as we get you prepared for the severe weather season that may ramp up as early as this weekend. We've had a little bit there so far this year, but so far, really kind of unscathed during the month of April. May, a lot of times that ramps up. All right, we're going to get back to the severe weather show now, so stick around. A big focus for severe weather is often tornadoes, but last year, many areas of central Illinois also experienced flash flooding. Meteorologist Jacob Dickey has a family story.
For those in Gibson City, the August 12th, 2021 flood was a day nobody will forget.
I went to work that morning, everything was cool, no big deal, just another Thursday.
In 4 hours, over a foot of rain fell in town, causing catastrophic flooding. While Howard Curry was at work, his wife Pam was trapped in their home by the water.
I was very scared for her. I was talking to her on the phone a lot. I knew that she was sitting on the kitchen counter on the island with the dogs waiting, and fire department was there pretty quickly.
4 feet of rushing water flowed through their neighborhood, something nobody in town thought was possible.
I know we didn't. Where we're located in Gibson City, who would have thought we would have had flooding? The creek or nothing's around us.
The water was devastating, ruining belongings, furniture, appliances, and family heirlooms.
With the first 6 inches of that flood water being raw sewage, then everything the water touched, we had to get rid of.
The water rose so fast that Howard and Pam lost nearly everything they owned.
There was just nothing you could do. It was just hang on and hope everybody survives.
The flooding was particularly devastating for many in town.
We're definitely not the only people in town in this boat. We've started over before. We'll just start new again.
But a common problem few realized was what their insurance did and did not cover.
Fires and anything else, any other kind of storm we could have had, we would have had, our insurance would have kicked in. With it being flood, we got $5,000 for sewage, but that's the only thing the insurance company would have paid, and a lot of them didn't even get paid for the sewage. It's going through their house.
Yeah, flooding, it can really be devastating. And for the Davis family, it took an entire community to restore what they lost. Amelia has the story.
It was a day we all remember.
Devastating. Leslie, my wife, called me and came home from work, and we started taking stuff out of the basement because the water was already coming in. So we knew it was going to be bad.
The historic Gibson City flood affected many, but for one family, it left both their basement and their business in inches and even feet of water.
Water came up so high, it actually came over our window wells in the basement. So water started coming in the windows, and that's when it started coming up. And I was walking through at least waist to high water as we were taking the last bits of stuff out of the basement. With all the water in there, we lost our furnace, we lost our water heater, we lost all the furniture and stuff was down in the basement. So it was basically a total loss down there.
After dealing with the flooded basement, this family soon realized this was just the start of their flooding issues.
At that point, no, we did not realize our gym was flooded. We had to walk here to be able to get here because there was no way we could get our vehicles here. Once we got here, looked in the front door, and it was, I can't explain how devastating it was to see your life's work, 13 years of labor underwater.
Back in August, in this exact location, this gym was completely underwater. But thanks to the community, just 8 weeks later, it is now up and running.
It took us 7 to 8 weeks to turn everything around with all new flooring, paint, some new equipment, just daily work.
The community was great. We had at one time when we were moving all the equipment and trying to get all the flooring up, we had over 50 people from the community, our church, and people from the kids from the different sports teams here. And it was just amazing to see everybody move those things. They did in a couple hours what it would take us a couple weeks to do.
But how can one prepare for such an unlikely event?
We do have a generator. We are looking at possibly a whole house generator to be able to kick on when we're not there, so some pumps still run.
Something as simple as flood insurance or keeping a sump pump close by could really come in handy this severe weather season. For more helpful tips, visit our website at WCIA.com.
All right, thanks a lot, Amelia. We've got much more Weathering the Storm coming up after the break.
All right, guys. There we go. Halfway through the show there. A lot of flooding there in that segment there. Let's hope that we don't have that again. That was some wild stuff. So much rain falling in that short amount of time. All right, so we've talked a little bit about tornadoes, a little bit about flooding here. We've got some more stuff about tornadoes coming up, including the University of Illinois, who is involved in a project that's helping to learn more about tornadoes in the southeastern United States. Is where kind of the area that they're studying them in, but some of the same principles there can be applied to some of the weather that we get here. But it's kind of cool because the University of Illinois, they've got these really cool, I'll call them toys, because I would love to have these toys. They're Dopplers on wheels and all these really cool ways to measure storms out in the field. And so we're going to touch on that coming up here in the next segment as well. And much more. Why you should have multiple warnings, and also why we chase storms. I know we get that question a ton. Why are you out there chasing all of those storms? And you're at the storm tracker. It's dangerous. Well, we've got a little bit of a peek behind the curtain as to why we do that, and some science, some social science that actually says it's pretty beneficial to the viewers out there. So we'll have that for you coming up here as well. So hope you guys are enjoying the show. Many of you here watching, whether it's on TV, here online, on this once again rainy night. I will tell you this, while you're on here, we may have some severe weather again this weekend, and then May, of course, ramps up when severe weather season really kicks in, and that is going to be, you know, that's kind of the peak month for tornadoes a lot of times here, and even into June we can get severe weather. So this is the perfect timing. We've really kind of skipped things so far. Let's get back to the show.
A new research project aimed at learning more about tornadoes is underway, and the University of Illinois is right in the middle of it.
So the project is called PERILS, which is Propagation, Evolution, Rotation, and Linear Systems. It's a field research campaign. Linear systems are just lines of thunderstorms. We call them squall lines. And we're interested in knowing how they form tornadoes.
Jeff Trapp is a University of Illinois professor who is part of a team of researchers in this field study to help learn more about why certain storms in a squall line produce tornadoes while others don't.
So imagine something that has a length of 300 miles, and we're trying to predict something that has a length of a quarter mile. Forecasters lose credibility on these kinds of events because we have warnings up and down the line, and then maybe in one location we see a tornado. So we really need to understand these better so that we can improve on the prediction.
With a whole slew of weather instruments, they are gathering valuable data on these storms up close.
Basically, what it allows us to do is take the radar to the storm so that we can take measurements at close range.
I'm sitting inside the control center for a vehicle known as the DOW, or a Doppler on wheels. It literally is a Doppler radar sitting on the back of a truck. They take this out in the middle of the field, scan the storms, hoping to learn more about these tornadoes. And that's being done right here with the University of Illinois.
We're taking 14 of our students to observe these events. It's a great experience for the students to be able to use the equipment and see everything unfold and understand how field work is done.
But it's more than just using the Doppler radar. Countless other data gathering techniques are being utilized.
So these trucks here are allowing us to take mobile balloons and launch those and collect information about temperature and humidity and winds above the ground. And then finally, we have these instrument packages called pods and mobile mesonettes that help us map out the temperature and winds beneath and in front of these linear systems.
And things that they are learning from this project could help predictions right here in Central Illinois.
Especially because this is a phenomenon that affects Central Illinois, that it's really great for us to be able to contribute to the science and contribute to forecast improvements. Essentially, anything that we learn from our deployments, our observing missions in the Southeast U.S., easily transferable to what we experience here in Illinois.
Projects like that are useful for understanding how tornadoes can travel and cause wind damage to buildings. Now, one place that can be dangerous and deadly place to be in a tornado, open span buildings. Jacob tells us why.
Get inside! Get inside! Run! 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 Run!
It's a scenario few have faced, but we all should be prepared for. Being at a big box store shopping, at a warehouse, a factory, or even in a gymnasium when a tornado threatens.
We move next to Illinois, where at least 2 people were killed after winds blew the roof off an Amazon warehouse in the town of Edwardsville.
More than 100 workers at the Mayfield Consumer Products Factory were making candles when a tornado tore through the building. At least 8 of them were killed.
The people felt they had a sense of security in a store that was massive and big and strong, and yet those walls came crashing down.
While recent tornado disasters have claimed many lives in buildings just like those, in 2004, the Parsons manufacturing plant in Roanoke, just outside Peoria, faced a similar fate. Roanoke Fire Chief Jeffrey Smith remembers that day all too well.
I thought we're going to have some fatalities in there, some injuries. Major injuries just by the look at the building and stuff.
An F4 tornado leveled the facility with 150 employees inside. Incredibly, nobody was killed.
think it was a matter of fact of just the awareness, and then the storm shelters were a big factor. If they hadn't had those, we would have had some major fatalities out there.
If you find yourself in an open span building during severe weather, stay weather aware at all times. Ask about the designated storm shelter inside the facility. Avoid the center of the room or the exterior walls, as both can collapse on top of you. If possible, change your plans to visit these places on active weather days.
Being in an open building is also not a good place to be if a derecho is headed towards you. Jack has more.
The destruction left behind from a derecho can often look like that of a tornado, but the two are very different animals. Whereas tornado is Spanish for to turn, derecho is Spanish for straight, both referencing their winds. A derecho is a long-lived, typically bow-shaped complex of thunderstorms that produce damaging straight-line winds. Most times, a derecho starts out as just a cluster of thunderstorms. As the thunderstorms in this cluster start to rain, the cooler air that comes down from the cloud with the rain pushes out into the usually warmer air, creating newer storms. And as you can imagine, the process reinforces itself. This constant building up of newer storms gives them the bow shape and can lead to even faster movement and stronger winds. Like a blizzard, a windstorm has to meet certain criteria to be considered a derecho. Those criteria are a wind damage swath of at least 240 miles and wind gusts of 58 miles per hour or greater along most of the length. Derechos are fairly rare, usually only occurring about once a year somewhere in the U.S. Specifically for Illinois, we usually see one derecho come through the state every other year. The last time that we had one enter Illinois was August 10th of 2020. That August 10th derecho is notable for many reasons, mainly for being the costliest thunderstorm in U.S. history. It started out as a cluster of storms in southeastern South Dakota and quickly gained strength as across Iowa. It's near Cedar Rapids in Iowa that had its strongest wind gusts of near 140 miles an hour. Noaa estimates that this was an $11 billion event. Here in central Illinois, we were spared from most of the damage. That being said, we did have a 75-mile-per-hour wind gust reported near Danville.
All right, Jack, thanks a lot. We've got much more weathering the storm coming up after the break. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out here with us still as we continue into our last segment of Weathering the Storm. Appreciate you guys here with us. Again, this next segment we talk about, again, why we chase, why we're out in the storm tracker. You know, we get that question a lot from people, you know, why you're out there. And so we're going to go and we're actually talk to somebody from the University of Alabama that's actually studied this. And it all spawned from the Joplin tornado that happened in 2011. 161 people died, and they want to know why so many deaths, or why were people taking shelter versus not taking shelter. And so they did kind of a deep dive and study into that, and some interesting things that came out of that research. And we talked to the professor there, that the social scientist that did all that research, and they kind of talk about the importance of people wanting to visually see what's going on, and not just kind of the radar, but like when we say tornado, showing a picture of a tornado if there is one. And so that kind of goes back to why we're out there in the field, is to hopefully capture that, to get the urgency across to you that, hey, this is a bad deal. And so we're going to kind of go into that here in that story. Also, having multiple ways to get warnings. Okay, can't rely just upon one thing to get warnings. We'll kind of explain more about why all of that is good. Thanks everybody here, Kathy and Chris, and let's see here, Julie, if they're from Westville and Danville, and Rantoul in the house. Okay. Alrighty then. We're about to get back to the show here in just a little bit. Again, as I mentioned, coming soon, we're going to be giving away some weather radios. Now, not during the show or anything, but be checking things out in the next few weeks. You're going to hear more about a contest that we're going to have. So stay tuned. Back to the show. You can always count on us to deliver life-saving weather information during severe weather, not only in the studio, but also out in the field.
Storm Tracker 3 has become a consistent staple when we cover severe weather in central Illinois.
We've outfitted our Jeep with the latest technology that allows us to broadcast live video from out on the road. We have 3 different cameras installed here to give us different views of the storm while on the road. And we can launch Sky 3 drone. This gives us incredible vantage points and views of the storm that you can't get anywhere else.
We often get asked, why are you out there driving in the bad weather? What is the benefit? Well, there's science and research that proves that what we're doing out in the field is helping make a difference for people in choosing whether to take shelter or not. Dr. Laura Myers with the University of Alabama has been researching this for over a decade.
There's a psychological process with people. If they don't have to change their behavior, they don't want to change their behavior.
Instead of us just showing a radar with bright colors on it, we want to show the storm, what it looks like, the impacts it may have had, in hopes that this will get people to take action.
It's much better to actually see the impacts. People realize then what it really means. If you show them a live shot of what the wind is actually doing and what the impacts of that wind are, then they're like, oh, I get it now. This is really bad.
And we found being out in the field, broadcasting live from the storm itself, can make a big difference.
So unless they understand that there is something serious coming, it's coming within a certain time frame, and it's coming to their location, they may not take action.
Of course, you can't just rely solely off of outdoor sirens or other ways. You got to have multiple ways to get these alerts. Jack tells us more.
We always recommend having at least 2 reliable sources for severe weather alerts, and in today's connected age, that's never been easier. Breaking in over TV coverage remains the most effective way to bring you the latest information to the biggest audience. We will always cover tornado warnings and strong severe thunderstorm warnings online and especially on TV. Recently, though, we have been able to live stream our severe weather coverage online only and also on social media. Maybe a storm has a warning on it, but it isn't strong enough for us to have to break into TV programming. We then may choose to only stream our coverage online. We can show our live coverage from the live stream page on the WCIA website, through the WCIA news and weather apps, or through our social media channels. We have you covered. If you lose power, you can still watch the coverage. The convenience of our app is great, but the best thing about it, being able to take our forecast on the go, is if you have to go to the basement or your safe spot, you can take the forecast if the storm is right on your doorstep. Your phone will also provide you with an emergency notification if your location is within a tornado warning, flash flood warning, or a very dangerous severe thunderstorm warning through your cell phone carrier. And lastly, we really do strongly recommend you purchase a Noaa Weather Alert Radio. These are fantastic tools, and especially they could be invaluable with those alerts that come in during the overnight hours.
Well, that wraps up the show for us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
As always, we have our stories online. You can check those out at any time, WCIA.com.
And of course, don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms.
Be sure and download the WCIA3 weather app so you can be ready when the next storms arrive.
Thanks so much again for joining us. We hope you guys stay safe out there during the upcoming severe weather season. As always, stay weather aware. Keep an eye to the sky. Have a good night.